solving the puzzle for you.
Yeah, I'll take it. Hello and welcome to Deep in the D-Pad, where we explore all things gaming through an intellectual lens. I'm RK Taylor, and with me, as always, is game dev Carlos Gutierrez.
Hello, dear listener.
Today, we're talking about achievements, trophies, things that are created outside the game's story. They're usually controlled by the console or UI menu rather than as an in-game objective, and they are fun for me. Most of the time.
Yes, and these are the things that, as Ryan mentioned, they usually pop up outside of the game for accomplishing something. So if you beat Chapter 1, bleep bloop, a thing pops up in the middle of your screen, 10 points, you beat Chapter 1. In some of the best cases, you just simply put the disc in the console and bleep bloop, you get 10 points for putting a disc in a console. Sometimes the achievements patronize you for doing something so easy. And we'll get into fun stuff like that later on in the episode.
Yes, for the sake of simplicity, I think we should just call these achievements, even though we're going to be talking about trophies, and I'm sure other platforms may use other words. I think in like WoW even had them. They weren't called quests.
World of Warcraft eventually.
Were they called achievements?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were called achievements. That brought in achievements like way later on in the game. Like Steam has achievements, even virtual reality has achievements. Like the Oculus ecosystem has it, and if you're playing Steam games, you're already in the ecosystem on there.
Yes, so let's turn to our D-Pad delight right away. Can I go first? Can I tell you? I'm really excited to share my D-Pad delight with you.
Yes.
Okay, so when I first got my Xbox Series S, I started playing No Man's Sky, and as you know, and I was totally hooked on No Man's Sky. And at first, I thought I was going to try to, get all of the achievements in that game because I was just having so much fun with some of the aspects of it that I think most people think are like mundane, like scanning the environment for nature. For anybody who doesn't know, No Man's Sky is like an open world space exploration game with procedurally generated planets. The thing that really hooked me about it wasn't just the procedurally generated planets, though. It was that the trees and the minerals and the animals that you find on these planets cohere in a way that like makes sense. So it's really like an ecosystem that's being generated. It's not just like things are completely random, which is super neat, and it really takes a lot of like thought. Anyway, I wound up not getting them because you have to survive. Yeah, like on the survival mode, you have to get to the center of the galaxy, and you and I tried that, and that was a disaster. But before I knew how hard that would be, I was one of the things was to like survive on a hostile planet for 30 days or something, like in-game days, which was still like so many hours in real time. And I think we were either recording like that day, or we were going to be like, doing something on the computer. And I just I dug down. I dug a hole and stayed down with my character running into the ground where he was like not going to be harmed by like the toxic damage. Oh, I don't know if I said that it had to be an extremely like hostile planet, like environmentally hostile planet.
Right.
So it was super toxic. I couldn't like go into like the toxic clouds above ground. So I used like the rubber band trick, just making my character run straight, while, didn't want the controller to die, And I got it, but it was like, was it really worth that? And that's kind of one of the things I want to like explore, not directly, but indirectly throughout the conversation today, because I'm very curious about like the pull that I have felt at different points in my life for achievements.
Well, I mean, I guess that's going to relate to my story. With the pull of achievements, you and I used to be heavy achievement hunters, like back in grade school, specifically maybe around middle, early high school. And that brings me to my memory of the Xbox 360 generation badges for getting all achievements in a game. So back in the day, dear listener, if you are too young to remember the 360 generation, PlayStation 3 and 360 came out, and they were kind of having a big competing online party. And what Sony did that was really cool in my eyes was create PlayStation Home, which was this kind of big hub world for players to congregate outside of their games. It's almost like, I guess, it's sort of like Facebook Horizons, except, 2-3 generations in the past. But the coolest thing about this was any achievements / trophies, as they called it on the Sony ecosystem, any achievements that you got in games would turn into trophies or furniture or just props that you could have around your house in PlayStation Home. And so I, not being a PlayStation 3 boy, was like, what do I get on Xbox that's comparable? And we got these like 2D square JPEGs that would get added to our like gamer tag. If we like under our gamer tag, you could see like what their quote unquote completed games were or whatever. So I really enjoyed getting these badges. I think I did Batman Arkham Asylum, the first game, for possibly my first badge, and then like it just snowballed from there. Like just game after game, I wouldn't necessarily look at the achievement list before tackling it, but I would certainly like be in the headspace of, oh, I got to do like this, that, and the third in order to like get things done while I was playing, which eventually corroded my experience with games. But when it first came out, I really felt like so overjoyed when I would get like a completion mark for those Xbox games.
Yeah, I mean, this is before the loot box era of, like, but this was the thing that you would get that was surprising, that you wouldn't necessarily know if you hadn't been checking, if you weren't necessarily like hunting for it, but like if it would just happen kind of like in the normal course of play. That was like, oh, it's like leveling up almost, it's like, oh, nice, like look what I have now.
And now let's get deeper into the D-pad.
Okay, so we've already defined achievements and trophies. I'm curious what makes achievements successful or unsuccessful. I want to break down everything about them, really. Their point value, like how they're tracked, like across games, all of those kinds of things. But to get started there, Carlos, do you want to talk about what you think like a successful set of achievements for a game would look like? How balanced are they, if at all,
Yeah, I think that's a really good conversation to have. That was my very first question when you started talking about what even is a feature of a successful achievement. I started to question, like, what is a successful achievement? Is it an achievement that is extremely difficult to get, but there is a good percent of the gaming population that did get it? Or is it, in fact, the ultra rare achievement that is obtainable, but only like 0.1% of people ever go for it? In my view, kind of as with the rest of the game content, I feel like everything should be engaged with. It doesn't need to be engaged with by 50% of the player base, but I do think that at the very least, like all achievements should be grabbable by like 10 to 15% of like, all the players that play it. So like the ultra hard ones that are like, I don't know if this is an actual achievement, but the super hard ones that's like beat all of Dark Souls 3 without dying, like that I consider that's certainly an achievement, but it's kind of like an unsuccessful achievement in a way to me, because it is going against like the core of the game. Like Dark Souls 1, Prepare to Die edition. Literally, the tagline is Prepare to Die for the entire series. And if you make an achievement that says don't die, it's almost like making a basketball game with the achievement saying kick the ball into the goal. So that's kind of like my barometer for a successful achievement, is like a fair amount of the gaming group that engages with that specific title will be able to get the achievement, and it does not go against like the core game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. I think the kicking a basketball into the goal, as long as there's a kick feature enabled, would be a totally acceptable achievement.
Yes, yeah, if there was a kick feature enabled, sure.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, Kingdom Hearts has Kingdom Hearts is not predicated on constant death the way that like the Souls games are, but it's a very long game, and there is an achievement for not dying. And there's also like an achievement for like beating the game in like, I think it's like, I want to say 4 hours. I don't even think that is possible. So I feel like I'm wrong about that number, but those are both achievements that I saw that really I found to be like upsetting almost, where, it's not like I was planning ever gonna like get them, but just why do you want people to rush through? Like, what is the purpose of having someone beat the game? And even if it was 10 hours, like, why do you want someone to rush? Let them take their time and enjoy it. Like, the idea of that, like, you're making the entire game a single time trial, and then like there are people who get 4 hours and 5 minutes into the game and then they're like super pissed, and I understand why they would be. Or like you get to the final boss and you die, and that's like really disappointing. And it's like, Why is that something that we like feel the need to encourage? And I like what you said about like, the achievement should be like 10%. Like 10% is like, if 90% of the people who play this are not earning the achievement, that's a rare achievement in my eyes.
Yeah, very rare, yeah.
Enter the Gungeon, right? I looked at the achievements like earlier this week, and because I just started playing it, and I got an achievement for beating the tutorial. The next most common achievement is earned by 10% of players. So the second most common achievement, 90% of people who play the game do not earn, which is insane that their achievements are that competitive. And I don't know why. I don't know what purpose is served by making the achievements so challenging. In the same way that I don't know what purpose it serves if you make them not challenging at all. If it is put the game in the console, like that's dumb. Like, don't make that an achievement. Make it something that's fun. At least I would like them stacked in such a way that it was like, about half the achievements you can get through normal play. Fire the gun 100 times can be like a very easy achievement that most people are going to get, that keeps you engaged, keeps you hooked. If you're someone who really cares about achievements, of course the gameplay loop has to be more important than the achievements themselves. But it's, it's kind of like having hot sauce, like it's like, ooh, like look at this new thing,
Right, yeah. So I can kind of answer from a developer side both ends of that spectrum. Like, why are some achievements so crazy hard and why are some achievements gimmies? Starting with the so crazy hard, part of that would be gameplay longevity. So if you have the achievement saying, hey, beat Resident Evil 2 remake in under 4 hours, or Kingdom Hearts, right? The people who are really, really into that game, such as myself, I will go through and keep replaying Resident Evil 2 until I can like get fast enough. But that's just me. I personally like that game enough to want to do that. Like, even if I fuck up on my time, I'm having a fun time playing the core game. And at this point, I'm playing it for the 5th time. So clearly, this achievement is like not grinding my gears. But it gets me to play the game so many more hours, which makes me feel like I got more value out of the game, even though it's kind of this artificial, like they kind of mind fucked you into thinking you got more value out of the game. But as long as you had a good time, you're playing the game, you're having a great time, all that. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, the whole like super easy achievements and sometimes the descriptions like patronize the player, devs got to have their fun too. so it's like on that side of the spectrum, it's like we need to think of like some achievement to like fill in the box of like maybe an easy achievement, and we don't necessarily have any other like things to call out, so we'll just do one for popping in the disc, or somebody like specifically wanted to make that joke. Like, I think in the Simpsons video game, like you get an achievement for pressing pause, and like it makes fun of you for doing that. So that's both sides of the spectrum. We're either trying to get you to play the game longer, or we're just trying to have fun with you, or just have our own little joke.
Yeah, I do think like something like a Simpsons joking about like your laziness when you're pausing kind of parallels Homer, and there's something to that feels more fitting than it would in like Halo, let's say. They're poking fun at like the main character, and like they're still in the genre, like the comedy genre. So I feel like you get passes if it's cohering in some way. But for a game that's like trying to be serious, for the achievements to be super simple, there are games that have such easy achievements that people will play them just for the achievements, right? There was a game that like was circulating.
Avatar the Last Airbender on Xbox 360 is the most famous example. You can get all the achievements in less than like 2 minutes of play.
Okay, yeah, perfect, thank you. Yeah, I've seen other games on Achievement Hunter like where it's like, buy this game, it's like $4 and you can get 1,000 gamer score in under 5 minutes. And it's like, I saw someone comment, at this point, Microsoft should just sell gamerscore. And I found that to be so interesting, because none of the people who are buying the game for the gamerscore, they are doing it. If the gamerscore isn't a form of currency, right? Like, they wouldn't just buy the gamerscore outright if that was an option, because then it wouldn't be worth anything. The idea is that it's tied to, it represents like what you've earned, and nobody cares if you've earned something if as long as you've earned 1,000 gamer score, like it doesn't matter which game it came from because people see the gamer score before they see anything else.
Yeah, so real quick note I wanted to make on the achievement for just putting the disc in. That was Soul Calibur 4. Literally pop in the disc, and I think the achievement was called Welcome to Soul Calibur, which is like, wow. But also fighting games, I guess they have a hard time, coming up with achievements because the mechanics are like so set and stuff like that. Something I kind of want to bring us to is sort of like, what do we appreciate in achievements? And one thing I'll say from the developer side is like, I appreciate when we can like do nods to other games or other developers through the achievements.
Ooh, intertextual.
Yeah, like there were a couple of achievements in Days Gone that were like nods to either other games or other studios. I can't quite remember the exact ones, but I think like one of them was for collecting like a certain number of Freaker ears, and the number of ears actually is a studio name, and so on and so forth. So things like that are fun to me. What do you like about achievements, or what do you appreciate when it comes to a good achievement?
I do like a certain amount of balance, like I said earlier, between things that are very attainable through the normal course of play and things that are particularly challenging or require a specific set of actions, something intentional. Something you'd have to intentionally go after that you may not do. And I do like the use of them for the longevity purposes that you mentioned earlier. I also like when they end in the numbers 5 or 0, because I just find that to be satisfying. And when your gamer score has like a 1 at the end of it, it's just... It's sloppy. We don't need that.
What about the even numbers? As somebody coming from the orange box, that was like the big game that fucked over everyone's gamer score, but it had some that were like 2, 4, and 6 points.
Yeah, I don't know. I just I don't think that there's any reason why they would need to do that. If you get an achievement that has 2 gamer score and you don't get the other 4 that have 2 gamer score, then your gamer score is permanently off. And I just like the idea of it being, everybody's being kind of like neat and like rounded to the nearest 5 or 10.
I agree with that. My human brain likes the cleanness.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it's like, it's not like, I'm almost like, I'm kind of joking, like there's like, I don't need it to be 5 or 0. Like it's really like inconsequential, but still, why the fuck not? Also, I hate secret achievements that I have no tolerance for them. I think it is completely anti the purpose of achievements of I'm going to find, one, you can find them all online, which is silly that they think that they're going to keep something actually a secret, and they are just making it more difficult for us to try to complete them. And if they are, especially when they are not found in the normal course of play, that really infuriates me. If it's defeat a boss and it's a secret boss that you're going to find after the final boss or something like that, that's something I understand why they would make it a secret, but just write it in code.
What about story achievements? When say you're playing some game that's very narrative centric, what about keeping those beating mission 1, beating mission 4, beating mission 6, whatever? Those are just standard, but they made them secret because it would have revealed a character's death or something. How do you feel about that?
Right. So if the achievement is beating level 4, if at the end of level 4 Bob dies, right? And the achievement that they give you is you killed Bob, congratulations.
Yeah.
What they should say instead is you lost a great companion, or you finished level 4, or they can phrase it in ways that are kind of snide and mysterious and interesting, without giving everything. There's no need for spoilers in the achievements. I also don't think that would be a good way to go, but to have it blocked off so that if you were curious about what the achievements were, you'd have to go online on your laptop and search for them. It's why are you just making it more complicated? And there are games that have their entire achievements are secret, and it's
yeah.
What are you doing that for? Can't we just I think some of Tim Schafer's games, the point and click ones, Full Throttle, is, I think, literally every single achievement is a secret achievement, and that kind of has to do with if it's find this button, obviously they don't want to spoil that, but the game has so much humor in it anyway that I don't know. I just don't think it's necessary.
You appreciate the transparency and achievement, basically.
I do.
From a developer side, I can see some counterpoints to that, maybe, like at least like from the devs end, like when writers are helping with the achievements and stuff, they have like a big connection to the story. So in some cases on the achievements, they'll know like, hey, this is a big beat and we want the player to resonate with this beat, so we're gonna like write the achievement name and description in a way that ties it in, right? So like you were saying, like loss of a good friend, like that might be the name of an achievement, but even then, like having that title like shown as soon as you start the game and you get into chapter 1, it's like, hey, I'm Bob, I'm gonna be your buddy, and then you look at the achievements and it's like loss of a good friend and you're like, fuck, like that's already ruined for me. In another regard, we never touched on like the pictures that usually come with these achievements. So the artists that are making the pictures, like like someone might think, okay, this has to do with Bob, so let's make the icon Bob's face. So even if the icon is now not secret, but the title is secret, we know this achievement is going to have to do with our buddy.
Mm-hmm.
So I get where you're coming from as a player, like both wanting transparency but also not wanting spoilers. And right now, I'm not entirely sure how to reconcile that with the developer's desire to kind of like keep the achievements within, say, like the theme of the game in a sense, and like still having stuff that will having achievements or milestones that will connect to the player more closely via that detail, while also like not spoiling things.
Yeah, I mean, they could also just not make Bob's death like something that's like achievement worthy. Like there's so many different things. I don't have any respect for the the mechanics are fixed, so there's a limited number of things that you can do in a fighting game to earn achievements. Like, no, there really aren't. I mean, you can have a game with 5 achievements, 200 gamer score each, make it, kick 100 times, use every combo, play with every character, play on every map. Like, you can make it very basic things that, again...
I think there is actually a minimum number of achievements demanded by each platform.
Okay, I mean...
that's something I learned, yeah. I don't know the exact number, but...
That is very interesting. I'm surprised to hear that. But even if... So let's say that number was 10, right? And they were each 100, right? You can come up for any game. Give me 5 minutes. I guarantee I could come up, if I understood how the game plays, I could come up with some basic achievements. And some of them are going to suck, but I guarantee that I can do it with no spoilers, I just can't see why people would resort to putting a game in the console. It just seems very lazy to me. It's like, you are a developer, this is part of your job, and like take it seriously. This is like a real mechanic that is going into the game that's going to influence the way that people play. And
so at times, it could be that developers don't want to put too much time into thinking out the achievements. More often than not, it's because there are other parts of the game that really need the attention more,
and that are way more important, admittedly.
That are way more important.
This is why we need crunch, though.
Right. So like achievements so from the dev angle, listeners, achievements usually come up like really close towards the end of the game development cycle, like when all the game like foundation has been proven out, built, you actually have like objectives and progression and all this shit, like everything's in there and works and makes sense. You can now actually accurately make an achievement list, because if you try making an achievement list when you're in beta, like 2 major features could get cut and suddenly like 10 of your achievements are now needing to be replaced or something like that. And when it comes to achievements, I mean, it's kind of like different experiences depending on studio, but usually it's the entire studio, like, or rather the entire like dev team, like QA included, like helping to brainstorm what these achievements are. And if anything, I really appreciate, and I try to reach out to QA first when it comes to like, I guess, not necessarily first, but I definitely like reach out to QA like as soon as possible for the gameplay focused like achievements. Like, hey guys, you've been playing this more than anyone else. Like we build it, we test it and stuff, but like you actually like try to play it. And, what things have you done? Like, what tricks have you found? And can these be turned into achievements? And, like, sometimes they do. Other times, it's more in the form of, like, kill 50 wolves while on your motorcycle. And, like, that's not too out of the box, but it's still like very fun and good to go towards.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The QA thing makes a lot of sense. I forget that like as devs, it's not like you're spending all of your time constantly play testing, and that's why you have a QA department. And
it's like this, yeah. Like as a developer, honestly, like a fair amount of your time will be spent play testing, but like not it's like weird, like don't take this the wrong way, listener. Like when you are working on the game, you at the very first are just testing for that functionality. QA, they're testing it for fun and functionality in a sense. So like it's not like they're the litmus test for mechanics and stuff, but certainly if you're kind of building, especially towards a bigger game, and you got a lot of like spinning discs that are getting put into the project at once, the people at the front line of playing it and breaking it can tell you like, we're breaking this and it's not fun, versus this is fun, but it breaks the hell out of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, it does make sense why you would go to them and why you would like trust their judgment on like what can enhance the fun of the game. It almost, and they're also getting like a nearly complete product where like you created the skeleton, they get to like see the skin and the flesh and all that.
So to just sort of cap off like what we appreciate in achievements, I think I already said this a bit earlier, but I'll just kind of give just the quick dirty rundown. For me, I like the round numbers, like the 5s and 0s. I enjoy outside the box thinking when it comes to achievements, so that would be kind of similar. Like if I was playing an NBA game but it did allow me to kick, I would be okay with it saying kick the ball into the hoop, but like whatever, skip past that example. I like outside the box challenges, and then presenting challenge beyond what the game already presents, just meaning like in some cases beat the game super fast, or in say like Dead Rising's case, kill the entire population of Willamette within the game, which I thought was cool.
Los, do you find achievements compelling at this point in your life? You said at the D-pad delight that like high school and whatnot was like a big achievement hunting era for you, and there are no more badges on the Xbox. So
right,
what's your deal now? I mean, you have a very high gamer score, but that's just because you play a lot of games.
Yeah. At this point, I don't care about achievements anymore. Like it. Achievements have stopped being any sort of consideration for me. I don't even really get like a dopamine rush when they pop up while I'm playing a game. They just feel really inconsequential, and also I'm just way more, well, I mean, I'm older, my priorities are vastly different, but my priority now is way more on like my backlog of games than on here's this one game, I gotta milk everything out of it. Mm-hmm. And actually, that kind of maybe now makes full sense. Like, I was way younger, had way less access to games back then, and achievement hunting was just a way for me to get more value out of the game, for me to, like, play more of the game and enjoy it until that next point where my parents would let me have a new game.
Okay, so basically the novelty of exploring new games, or, like, and, like, the sense of, like, time famine has caused you to care less about achievements over time since you have greater access now.
Yeah, now that I have, like, I can basically buy whatever game I want, and at times, like, I have overwhelmed myself with the amount of games to be played, like, so much so that the thought of even going for their achievements is Sisyphean. Like, there's hundreds upon hundreds of games, and each of those will have tens to dozens of achievements, and it's just thinking about it, it could almost overwhelm someone in the way that looking into the expanse of space does. Each star is just an achievement waiting to crush you.
Right. I've different periods of my life, I've made like a list of all the books that I wanted to read, and I would continue to add to it. And on my whiteboard, I currently have a list of movies and TV series that I want to, watch. And I also have a mental backlog of games, and I just know that there's so much more content than I will ever be able to, experience in my life. So I see what you're saying about achievements. I found myself really drawn to the Xbox achievements until I got the Oculus Quest, and something happened to me where part of it is like the novelty of like having like a new system, and it's like I'm less invested in like the Xbox ecosystem. When exactly. When I'm seeing like dipping my toes into this other thing. But it's also, I think I was affected when I saw that Oculus had achievements, and I like said to myself that like I'm not going down this road. Like I'm not going to care about Oculus achievements. And because I kind of like made that decision, I'm also experiencing that with Xbox, where I'm like, this is all fruitless. Like who cares about all of these extra game achievements? And even when I was like really drawn to the Xbox achievements in high school, and even like a year ago or however long it's been, not even like 6 months ago, there was always some kind of like self-loathing associated with the achievement hunting, which I know sounds really dramatic, but it almost reminds me of like when I know that I'm full and I continue to eat anyway because like I just want to gorge myself. It's like,
that's a really good way to put it, dude.
Thank you. I love food. But it's like I know that this thing is not something I need, and like I understand why I want it kind of, but I should also be able to turn it off and not force myself to do this thing. So hit me with your thought. Like, why is this compelling, I guess? What is the why that like drives us to play, like run a game into the ground, right? Like that's another thing. Like I have ruined games for myself by focusing so hard on the achievement, and like yes, it promoted the longevity, but that's more of a short-term concern than like a long-term like, wow, I really admire the developers who created this game. I had such a wonderful experience. Like my memory of the game is like, I can't believe how hard I worked for that thing, and like I just never want to see this again.
Yes, I 100% feel you. I can't remember even, like I've had several games where that's happened, and I think like the anger is so burned in that I just forgot what the games are now at this point. So why are achievements compelling? In a sense, they're sort of a source of motivation or pride to the player. They're motivation in that here are goals for you to reach. It could be parts of the story that you're going to hit later on. But like something is upcoming, it builds anticipation and then leads to a reward. So there's motivation. There's like external motivation as well as the internal narrative motivation to like continue your way through the game, right? And then the achievements are kind of helping pull you along on top of that. Now, from the side of pride, you get like, my number bigger than your number, hence I'm better, like classic human brain working. So when it comes to that pride, as you've heard with Ryan and I, it comes and goes, I guess. Like someone can tie their almost gamer identity entirely to the achievements or the completion of games, which is a good time to bring up YouTuber Gerard the Completionist, who has created an entire career off of playing video games and getting every single achievement or every single collectible unlockable in a game he plays.
Is he the first dude who hit 1 million gamerscore? Is that the same guy?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I also don't. I'm aware of that person, but I don't know who exactly that person is. But no, this guy has like over, I think he has over like 200 to 400 like completed games that you can like watch through his YouTube channel. He makes a whole, it's a whole show like every single time, and it's cool. I recommend watching it. I can't binge it, but the certain games that I'm into, I like watching him and how he has been through what we've been through so many times. Like I wish I remembered what video it was, but he talks about how he makes the completionist like fun for him. He acknowledges getting the achievements for especially for some games, it fucking sucks. Like just he flat out like says it. It's just like awful. It's a pain. Like you'll have to go through the game like 3 extra times, and so like he roadmaps it. Like he actually roadmaps like, I'm gonna do this playthrough and I'm probably gonna hit these achievements on the way. Then I'll do a second playthrough and it'll hit these achievements on the way. And he's doing that for the show, and well, one for himself so that he keeps his sanity, like tackling these challenges, and then for the show's sake, it creates a storyline that we can follow and almost play along and understand, like, hey, if I were to get this game, this is what I could expect if I wanted to go for that full complete. But now you don't have to. You can watch someone else do it, thank goodness, because there are just too many games out there. And so getting back to the point of pride, like with the completionist, he has, like, look at my gamer score, meaning like completed library. It's not like his achievement in a sense is like almost more real than the gamer score, because he has like completed the game. He has video of it up on there. If you're playing and just getting gamer score, you just have a number on an Xbox profile, and it doesn't necessarily carry as much, I guess, weight with it. But getting back into just the game ecosystems and less about like YouTube and stuff, it's really like the big number makes people feel good about themselves. You get this nice chime whenever like something gets accomplished.
The sound effect is so satisfying. That's true. I mean, you just like become like a Pavlovian response. It's just like, oh god, the bleep bloop occurred. Like, yay,
Yeah, exactly. Like that satisfying bleep bloop. Oculus doesn't have that satisfying bleep bloop. I feel like I've only really heard it from Microsoft, that the satisfying sound effect. Like none of the other platforms have a satisfying sound. But I guess the last thing is our achievements showcase our game history, right? It's not really too big a deal, but if you're, I guess, trying to take a trip down memory lane, you can like look at your achievements and be like, oh yeah, I remember like that month, like I was
definitely
playing that game heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I would use I don't know what the term metagame means. I hear that word dropped, and I always find it a little perplexing based on the other ways that I'm familiar with the word meta being used, or the prefix meta. But I would consider it, in the way that I'm like familiar with that, with those four letters, I would refer to achievements as like, in the umbrella of like, like metagame strategizing, like what you were saying about the dude who roadmaps everything. Like, to me, he's not just trying to go through and complete the game. He's really trying to think about the structure of how one would go about, enacting the perfect runs to minimize the amount of time that he has to sink into it. Can you reconcile that with like how you would use metagame?
So metagame, I have heard and used it to describe the external like game strategy. So like if you were playing a fighting game like Street Fighter, you're like, okay, Street Fighter is the fighting game, but the metagame, meaning like the meta or metagame, which is what is the best colloquially like used thing, that's how I would use meta game. So it's like, I play Street Fighter, but the meta is to play Ken and only Ken. I play Days Gone, but the meta being like, this is like my like gaming within the gaming is to like collect all the stamina upgrades first, so I'm like super fucking fast and can clear the early parts of the game better.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. I find that to be so confusing. I think meta is Greek for like beyond. There's another meaning to beyond or yeah. Anyway, meta I think of as like more of like a larger category, right? Like metaphysics is like encompasses more than straight up physics would. Physics rests on the assumptions, your metaphysical assumptions. So, but metagame is like ideal strategy within a game, which seems like a more narrow focus to me. Yeah, I don't know. I find that to be very, very confusing.
So Google has the definition of the adjective meta as referring to itself or to the conventions of its genre, which to me kind of makes sense. I'm getting this says of a creative work, and I think it's mostly giving like writing examples.
Yes.
But in a game sense, I think it still makes sense because the conventions of the genre in a way means the strategies being used. So like yes, I play Street Fighter, but I play Ryu Street Fighter, which means I am playing Street Fighter. I'm playing a character within a Street Fighter, and I'm using that specific fighter's archetype / moveset, which are conventions within the genre, because you have the brawler archetype, the grappler archetype, so on and so forth. And you are referencing that this convention, this part or this convention within the genre, specifically you're just referencing it. Like when we shorthand meta in gaming to specifically say like what is the optimal, whereas in a more broad sense you may be talking about like, oh, Ken's meta versus Chun-Li's meta, something like that. And then if you have more mechanics in there, people could be talking about like fight modifiers that they like put into Ken's belt, and that is now part of the meta. So it's like, are you playing the Ken meta? It's like, yeah, I'm playing Ken, but I'm not on the latest version of the meta game.
Okay. I'm going to let this go.
Games and the US in general, we're just going to use words how we like using them, damn it.
Well, that's how,
freedom!
That's how language evolves. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything you didn't cover that I wanted to say about why games or achievements are satisfying. I really do like the record that you mentioned. I find that to be like almost like a non-competitive, like wholesome reason, you know, like walking down memory lane type of thing. I do think that the numbers go a long way. Like going back to the Oculus Quest achievements, I don't know that there's like any kind of like numerical carryover. I think it's just like your friends get notified when you have an achievement, and I find that to be like, I don't care if someone did well in Beat Saber. Like, I'm not interested in getting a notification about that. I find that like to be so silly that it's gonna like inform me that someone else played Beat Saber well, you know, like, and there's no number to carry over, so there's no like permanent record of like that person. You know, it almost feels like it's supposed to be like evoking some kind of like FOMO from the friends. You know, it's like, wow, you could have gotten an achievement in Beat Saber, but like, guess what you were doing? Not in VR. Like, you're just sitting at home doing your thing. And like, you know, it's like, why are you advertising that this person did this? Like, if I wanted to look up how good this person was at Beat Saber, I should be able to do that. But I don't like need to be notified anytime that they do something. And as far as I know, there's no like long-term record-keeping thing that Quest is doing at this point. Do you know that? Do you know about that?
So, couple of questions that you presented, and the answer to your first question regarding FOMO and being notified is yes. Like, Facebook wants you to see your friend getting an achievement or a high score, and basically by notifying you, they're forcing the game back into your mind share.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, they played Down the Rabbit Hole and got an achievement, or Beat Saber and got an achievement. I think I kind of want to play Beat Saber right now. Like, it's not well, to some extent, it could be like, I want to get this achievement, but I've seen quite a few notifications, and this is something that Oculus is trying to push with their leaderboards or whatever. They're trying to build some sort of achievement competitive community, but so with their leaderboards add-on, it is basically just going to notify you like, oh, this person's like getting close to beating your score in Beat Saber, like, or they just tell you like, if flat out they beat your score in Beat Saber, jump in to beat them back. And that's what they want. Like, they're still trying to like, they're trying to get more headsets sold, and in doing that, they want to build a community where like you and I are in this positive feedback loop of like, I'm playing Beat Saber, now Carlos wants to play Beat Saber, and now Carlos played Beat Saber and beat Ryan's score, and we're just perpetually going back and forth, and then maybe we even play multiplayer together at the same time. So that is the ultimate goal, is that not necessarily the FOMO, but more just recurring players. They are trying, much like any game on the App Store on your phone, like Words with Friends or whatever, that pops up like, hey, you ain't played in a minute, but did you know some random dude played high against you? That's kind of it. Mm-hmm. Two other things I wanted to quickly touch on. Ryan, I agree wholeheartedly. I do not want to be notified that somebody is getting close to my high score or that they got an achievement. I have actually, for my other podcast, I have done like a full 10 to 15 minute rant on that specific instance because I find it very annoying.
Head-Mounted Destinations is the name of that podcast for anyone who's interested.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yeah, if you're interested in virtual reality and virtual reality game development, please give a listen to Head-Mounted Destinations. Thank you so much. But when we're talking about achievements with Oculus Quest versus Oculus, I guess Rift, basically wireless Oculus versus PC-powered Oculus. The PC-powered Oculus, when you get achievements, these actually become props in your home. Just like I brought up earlier in the episode with PlayStation Home. They become props, and it's fucking cool. Like, I think that's cool. That does not get carried over to Oculus Quest for some reason, which I find oh so totally weird. Like, it's almost like having the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, it's like having like docked version of Nintendo Switch and undocked version of Nintendo Switch, just like not having achievement parity with each other.
Yeah,
it's so odd.
It totally
like
is.
they use the same software. They pretty much can have the same Oculus homes at this point. So why are we not having props? And that's why the Quest achievements are so underwhelming. There's no number associated with it. There's like no tangible prop associated. And the bleep loop's not good. Where it pops up ain't good. Like they need what game devs like to call juice. They need to juice up everything about that.
I love this term.
Juice is good.
Oh man, I went to Indonesia a couple years ago, and their juice is fire, dude. They got like guava because it's like all of their like natural plants. So like we would go to a hotel, and oh my gosh, the morning there would be like 6 juice options, and they were all like dragon fruit or papaya or whatever. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Juice. Yeah, I like that you're talking about basically what can make achievements even better. And so I think parity on the same platform makes a lot of sense. I think that achievements would feel much more worthwhile if there were rewards for them, or even if
outside of just a magical imaginary number that's supposed to have clout within a very specific community.
Exactly. So something like a new background would be really like a home screen or something like that. And I would be okay with like the game, like let's say that you got all the achievements in a game. If the game awarded you, like something for your avatar, that would be cool. Or if you got 100 achievements across different games and the console platform, like if Microsoft or Sony provided you with something, it was like, wow, you've played a lot of games. Like, look at you go. Here's something besides a number. And like, for it doesn't have to be maxing out, but maybe reaching a certain gamer score. Oh, you got 20,000 points. We're going to throw in this extra thing for you, or here's a free month of, Game Pass or something like that. That's either cosmetic or doesn't really cost a lot from the, like from the studio or from the, from the company. And
yeah,
just it's a nice nod to your fans and your supporters, and it's reifying this accomplishment. It's giving you something that you can actually use in a way that might make your life a little bit more like meaningful or exciting or fresh or something like that.
Right. I totally agree, dude. And I think this was stuff we were talking about back when we were teenagers, like in the thick of it, hunting these achievements. I very vaguely remember, I think it was back when maybe 1 versus 100 was on Xbox 360, right? They were giving out those real prizes, like, yo, if you win 1 versus 100 tonight at 8 p.m., we're gonna give you the Maw or Miss Splosion Man or 1,600 Microsoft points, and you're like as
so
a player
exciting.
in that era, as a player in that era, you're like, nothing fucking compares.
Yeah,
you're
really.
even you're not gonna make it on a real game show.
Mom, I am not eating
this
dinner
is it.
tonight. You do not understand.
This is how I get my next game. Mom is not gonna get me my next game. I need to win 1 versus 100. And so what we wanted as players was to have a tangible reward. I think we knew we were at least within our friend group, when it came to gamerscore or whatever, like we knew like our clout levels and stuff like that, and we didn't have like big Reddit online communities to like clout argue against in that regard. But we wanted stuff that mattered to us. Like we saw we were part of their ecosystem, so it sort of felt like a no-brainer, almost leaving money on the table. Like, hey, we're loyal Xbox gamers. If you gave us like a 20% off coupon code for something in the Microsoft store for getting like for badging a game or anything like that, like we would certainly spend it. And in some ways, like achievements were improved in that badge era, because like before they didn't really have badges when you completed it. Sometimes when you completed the game, the badge for completing the game was actually different from the thumbnail that the game was typically on Xbox, which was like neat at times. When referring to what you brought up with PlayStation like themes and stuff, actually Xbox 360 kind of did that too. There were some games that gave you props for your Xbox avatar. I think Halo ODST was one I remember the most, because it gave him like a drone. He had like the Halo Falcon or whatever, the Pelican. He had the Pelican, and it was like a drone, and I thought that was so great. I really didn't like ODST, but I specifically went for that achievement because it gave that prop, and I knew everybody who is going to scroll down their friends list will see my avatar, and they will see that prop. So that had the most like immediate tangible reward, almost equal to like having that number on display.
Right, and we both recognize that like those kinds of cosmetic rewards are not important. You know, this isn't going to save anybody's life. This isn't going to make or break whether or not I'm having fun, you know, in the game. There is a little bit of, it's more enticing. The game becomes, you know, like it's a slight motivation. If I was already thinking about playing this game a little bit more, it's like what would just tip me over the edge. Like, it's like, I'm not going to play X, I'm going to play Y today, because this is like a fun extra goal that's keeping the game, you know, a little bit alive. You know, even though I know that this is something, even if it's something that you equip for a week, even if it's something that you never equip, it's giving you a goal, and there's something that intrinsically feels like, you know, it's almost like a self-esteem boost or something like that, as silly as that sounds, when in knowing that you accomplished a goal. Like, you set out to do something. Not everybody is going to do that. Not everybody who set out to do it will, you know, be successful. And look at you go. You know, it's like, you did this thing, and gosh, it sounds so silly that we're like analyzing it to this degree and getting down to like the nitty-gritty. And I'm almost like self-conscious about it too, because like it is getting to like the like psychological root of something that feels very silly and like juvenile, but there's something like in me that like, you know, hungers for these achievements and wants to complete them. And I don't know, I guess I feel like I'm just like putting myself on like display or so, you know what I mean? Like, if it's a little embarrassing or something.
Yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from. It's well, video games for us has certainly been stigmatized as a kid's activity, something that is not really meant to be taken seriously, this, that, and the third, something you certainly don't put all your time into. And achievements kind of go counter to that, right? It's like, I like this so much, I want to prove my mastery in it. I want to prove like how you know, much of it I can do or whatever. And since those two ideals go against each other, like, the more you build that achievement library, the more that side of like the old gen saying like, this is a waste of time,
Mm-hmm.
you should be learning how to screw holes in 2x4s so you can build a house like Jesus did. Like, that might be
so
the
much.
vulnerability. That might be the vulnerability, like, breaking through, is like those, that, at least for me at times, I feel that like the structures and the things that were like instilled growing up, they're different now for sure, especially with how big the games industry like has gotten. But it is certainly something to always have to be mentally combating.
Yeah, I also think that there's something about you know, like they're like as adults who play games now, right? We have this like, oh, we're intellectuals, like I'm an artist, like look at me, you know, or like I appreciate the aesthetic value of the game itself. But then when achievements are like a motivation, there's like this id in you that is like moved to get the achievements, and then, you know, the game, you're gaming for more primal reasons than like aesthetically, you know, like ones that are based on aesthetic merit, and it almost like disturbs that part of me that thinks that I'm doing this because I'm trying to become, you know, like I'm trying to enhance my relationship with the world and have better experiences, and you know, be more thoughtful or see beautiful colors, and recognize how I'm responding to you know, that the set of colors as they are presented to me or whatever, right? Like when I admit the achievement hunting part of me that like is a legitimate drive, I have to also recognize that it's limiting the scope of my, like, what I would consider to be like laudable appreciation for a game, right? Like something like a respectable, you know, and yeah, I'll leave it there. Do you have any firsthand experience like creating your own achievements, or is there any achievement that you've ever like had a hand in that was like particularly exciting or funny to you, or that you thought was a real accomplishment, or do you have any experiences like that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was involved a fair amount in like some of the Days Gone achievements that were made. So when it came to what I did personally for achievements, it was mostly I was very active in the brainstorming process, like just trying to come up with like cheeky names for titles for achievements, as well as coming up with different parameters for achievements. So like I'm always looking at like the goofy and or extreme stuff. So like hitting big jumps with your motorcycle, or like one achievement I thought was really funny, but I don't think made it in, was like stun X number of enemies by throwing a rock at their face, because that was my favorite way to kill enemies, probably still is to this day. You can just like grab a rock, throw it at the face of like a freaker or a human, and they'll be stunned and kind of rubbing their face for a few seconds, which makes them unaware. So you could just run up to them right in front of them and do a stealth kill. And so you feel so powerful doing that. That's why it was like one of my favorite bits, and I don't think it ended up becoming an achievement. But a lot of the stuff that I got to do in terms of like making achievements activate or like happen in the game is basically just like dragging a string. We do visual scripting on that game, so like dragging a string from one node to another that says like unlock achievement, type in the name of the achievement, whatever, and then boom, like it's as simple as that. The logic goes through, and then, you know, it's done. Engineering, they put together the whole system and tap into like the console's API or whatever to make the achievement pop up and stuff like that. The most fun part for me is totally the brainstorming part, and it's where we get like fun titles like I think I don't even remember what this was a nod to outside of the Queen song, but we basically have like "Don't Stop Me Now," "I'm Out of Control," "There's No Stopping Me." Like we used like 3 freaking lines from a Queen song as like achievement titles, which I love. And also "You've Got Red on You." So pretty much a lot of Shaun of the Dead. That's what it was. So a lot of Shaun of the Dead nods, like "You've Got Red on You" as a title, but at the same time we got to reference the area code for the town that the studio is in through that, and being able to like, again, yeah, doing the Queen stuff is fun. And we loved Burnout Paradise and the Burnout series so much that it led to the achievement Burnout Apocalypse being made, which was to use nitro and drift at the same time for 5+ seconds, which is it's hard to do, actually. It's funny because it's a bronze achievement, but like playing it as I heard from multiple people on the dev team, like, just how the fuck do we get this? Like where do we gotta go to do it? And that actually kind of made it a better achievement in my eyes, like that we were struggling to get it. But yeah, that kind of wraps up my big hype thoughts on achievements and stuff.
Yeah, word, I dig that. It's just so interesting to hear about some of the challenges, I guess. You know, it's nice to get a glimpse into the like dev mind, because at the end of the day, y'all are just gamers. Like y'all are just gamers who like know how things work, and it's like so weird to think about it as like not some like old stiff like men with all white hair. Y'all are just like
the person you
kids.
think is like the CEO of the company, right? Like they're not making the achievements; they're just collecting the money off of like the game sales.
Yeah. We're actually gonna try a new segment this time. Instead of Change of Heart, we're going to jump into Skill Treat, which is kind of a surprise type of segment. Most of the conversation that we are going to have is like scripted, and like we plan, not scripted, I guess per se, but we have a general outline. And one of the things that I like about Skill Treat is that Carlson and I are going to have like even more organic response, because I will be talking to him about something that we've never discussed, or he will be talking to me about something that we, again, haven't discussed.
And the hope is with these conversations for both of us to learn something new from the other person, as well as you, the listener, hopefully learning a bunch of new things or at least one new thing. That's why we consider this a skill treat.
So for this episode, I just found out about non-fungible tokens. Do you know about this, Carlos? NFTs?
Barely. I just heard about this like 2 days ago. I still don't fucking get it.
It is this is what I understand, and feel free to supplement this, because like I also find this to be really perplexing, and I just learned about it this week as well. But basically, as far as I understand, so fungible is like refers to like, it's like fiduciary. I think it's like a word meaning like money. So non-fungible cannot be converted into money, basically, and it is a token. So it is of a unique type, is the thinking, right? So it's basically a priceless item, right? Is like a way that we can think about it, but it's a digital item. So it is something, there's a way to validate the authenticity of these tokens, and I think that it may have something to do with like blockchain technology, which is what is used in cryptocurrency. But insofar as I understand, it's something like the way that like a person can own a Picasso, that's worth a certain number of $1 million, right? If I own a print of a Picasso, that's really just considered like a duplicate, and it is worth almost nothing, right? But so the way that NFTs work is you're given a stamp of like authenticity for the like that this is the original file, and so of the thing that you have, all of the other files that are begotten from the original are basically duplicates, and functionally they are identical in the same way that my eyes will be reacting to an authentic portrait of Picasso the same way that it would like a print of one.
I immediately think, and again, this is just kind of maybe my cynical mind, my fun-loving cynical mind, like, it reminds me of the film Exit Through the Gift Shop. If this is something you haven't seen, I highly recommend it. It's a documentary about street art that takes an interesting turn. But essentially, this guy, relating it to NFTs, he makes a painting and then he duplicates it like 50, however many times he duplicates it, and then in order to make money, he makes them unique by just doing whatever the fuck he wants with them to make them different. Like he'll literally just like lazily walk and like slap paint down and be like, "Yep, there we go. That's it. That's unique. That's unique." He'll even take the whole fucking can of paint at times and just say "fuck you" and like pour it on there, and that turns it into a physical NFT. That's what I immediately think of when you explain like, oh, these are like, I have this copied piece of art, but if I make it unique, then it becomes what Google says is like more subjective in value, and then the various tweaks and imperfections to that painting now give it its value. So like if you had, okay, tell me if this could potentially be an NFT, not in a digital sense, but maybe more physical. We have, let's say, the posters, the Master Chief poster that came with Halo 3, right? That was basically the cover of Halo 3. You take take 20 of those, lay them out, and then you have Picasso himself or fucking lead director of Halo like splash various paint patterns on there, right? Do those now become NFT because they have like unique characteristics and have been touched by like a certain figure?
Yeah, that seems like more like an autographed copy of something. The way that I'm thinking about NFTs is it's almost like, okay, so like there are people who collect books, and like they'll collect like first edition books, and in the like on the publishing page you can see whether this was like a first edition book or whatever edition it was that it was in, and the way that books are printed is like they'll do a run of books at a given time. So let's say for the like your first editions, they're gonna print 100 books all at once, and then once if those 100 books sell out, then they'll print another 100, or maybe they'll print 500 because they sold out so quickly, or because they were pre-ordered, and you know they feel confident that you were going to continue to sell these, right? So a first edition book would be anything that was printed at, you know, like in that first chunk, that those first 100 would all be considered first editions. But on the publishing page, you can see which number that was. So the first one printed in the first edition is worth an insane amount of money, and if that's like in mint condition, then even better, right? For a book that's like really, that's been very successful and that's been printed a bunch of times. So I think of that as almost like this, like a kind of like the literary parallel to NFTs, where it's like there's something about this one that was first, and that inherently makes it special, even though if I wanted to read a first edition of Catcher in the Rye or the, you know, millionth one printed, it's the same exact text. I'm not going to learn anything new. You know, I find that like people are really misplacing what they value in that, you know, like I can't really grasp why someone needs a first edition copy unless they're like a collector who's trying to make money. You know, in the same way that like an NFT, it's like, okay, you're going to spend $1 million on, you know, this album to get the like wave file that, you know, like the first recorded
Everyone else is going to get.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, people like, because people are spending money on it, you know, the demand for it is high. You know, I mean, it's like you know, these, I don't know if they're bidding wars, but...
So quick question regarding the NFT, and I guess I heard it most recently with, I think it was Kings of Leon, or some band is like, are they making their music the NFT, or is the album art the NFT? Like, what's the deal there?
My thinking is that they have an album that will be freely available, but the NFT of it is for sale, or was for sale.
There's only one?
That's the point of the NFTs, that there is a single... I believe that there is a single copy.
Right, but what I guess what I'm saying is like, when people buy the NFT version of the album, are they getting like the album JPEG artwork with like a certain number associated with it, and that's what's giving it value, or are they getting a alternate version of artwork, like visually different version of artwork? Getting back to the whole like the painting example I gave earlier. Like, will this all look and sound the same and simply just have a number associated with it that gives it its value?
Yes.
That's it's kind of really underwhelming in my eyes. That explains it very plainly, but that's super underwhelming. I'd rather it have some sort of cool visual quirk to it.
Yes, I agree, and it's ironic that we're talking about this in the episode on achievements, because, like, you know, we were just saying that there's like a part of us that feels like there's almost like a silliness in collecting these things that to most of the world are meaningless, or, you know, like they're intangible. And yet we're like, who would ever spend their $1 million on Kings of Leon?
Well, I'm glad I can finally understand NFTs now. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, so there's according to a RollingStone.com article, let me read the title really quick. Kings of Leon will be the first band to release an album as an NFT. It says that there are multiple NFTs that can be purchased, and the token, priced at $50, includes enhanced media, kind of like an alternate moving album cover, as well as a digital download of the music and limited edition vinyl.
Moving album cover.
So there's like a
so
GIF.
Cool.
You get like a GIF with it.
Yeah, basically. You get a GIF. Sorry. I mean, it's so true, but it's so funny. Like, moving album cover is just a GIF. Unless you're in real life, where then that's some real Harry Potter shit. But, like, if it's just a moving picture, then yeah, it's totally a GIF. So, like, you're paying for an NFT, which is, like, this, I guess, group of items. But, like, I guess I don't know how it's being packaged, like, if it's a zip file or what. But, like, so then it's just, I guess, what number is associated with that specific item. It's still kind of weird. Like, like I'm still feeling like, does the motion change? Like, is it a different person moving or a different aspect of the album art moving between different copies of the token, or will they all just move the same and have a number associated? And then probably it'll be like KOL-6969 is like the highest paid fucking version of this album art. You know it's gonna be like 420 or 6969 are gonna be the highest paid NFT numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right, and it also says that they're minting golden tickets is what they're calling them, like, referencing the
Willy Wonka.
Like Willy Wonka. Yep. And so there will be 18 unique looking golden tickets, and they're going to auction 6 off. Hold on, let me read the quote. Out of the 18, the band will auction 6 and vault the other 12 like a painter would do with a rare piece from a series of art. Each one of those is a unique NFT with the most incredible Kings of Leon art you've ever seen.
Okay.
And the tickets also come with some other bonus stuff, like a real concert ticket and, just some other, like, merch. So it's kind of like you're getting, like, a package deal and all that. Again, you just get, like, a unique art piece. So I'm not sure if those other art pieces can legally be replicated, like the GIFs and, like, and whatnot, if they can be, circulated in a new way. But I think that there is a stamp of authenticity that exists due to cryptocurrency technology, of like the blockchain technology, which just seems super like what's the word? Complex for like for like an artistic asset. Like I don't know.
At the very least, it's like a very complex way to approach inflating the value of your creativity.
Yeah.
Just wait till we get blockchain copies of fucking video games, dog.
Yeah, man, I know. It really will be like that at some point, probably. I can't even picture it.
I can. Nintendo, Miyamoto comes out. For the 45th anniversary of Mario, we will release
Mario
NFT
64
versions of Super Mario Odyssey. Like, it'll be like, you'll have 25 different covers, and if you buy the game 25 times, you can combine all the covers, and it'll make the big NFT, and you'll be able to scan it with your QR code on your Nintendo app, and it'll give you a coupon for 10% off.
Thank you for listening to Deep in the D-Pad. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share us with your friends.
For updates and discussion, follow us on Reddit at r/deepinthedpad, Facebook at deepdpad, and subscribe to Deep in the D-Pad on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the bell.
And if you want to ask us questions or get a chance to share your own D-Pad delight on the show, email us at askdeepinthedpad@gmail.com. Be sure to put question or delight in the subject line.
Big thanks to 8-Bit Jazz and Kevin MacLeod for supplying the music for the show.